There it is. This is the bedrock. This is the Bible. This is the foundation. This is the keystone. This is the starting point for everything. The 39 layers. And this is what, if somebody said to me, what's new? I would say, what's new is the learning outcomes. Now, over the years going up to 2019, all of your colleagues will be talking about the learning outcomes in their subject. English is just the flagship here, the pioneering spirit. That's the first one to deal with learning outcomes. So, in writing a book like Fire and Ice, the thing we had to do was start with the learning outcomes. That is very new. English teachers traditionally began with a book, a play, a novel, a poem. Our starting point was the text. The starting point now is the learning outcomes. I will say about it, though, that the more we went into them, and they really take a huge amount of reading because they're very dense, as you know, they are a comprehensive articulation of everything we do as English teachers. It really is a very systematic layout, such as we never have had before, stating what an English teacher does. And what I think is very good about the learning outcomes, and the learning outcomes, I would say, have become our friend through working with them. You look at them and first you say, I'm doing all this already. What we found the more we looked at them was, yes, they do articulate the best I can be as an English teacher. When I read them, I say, that's me. That's me when I'm at my best in the classroom. What they also do is articulate something beyond that. So they make us maybe punch a little above our weight, do the extra things that are required maybe by a digital age, digital literacy, a new kind of text, making sure that we embrace in the classroom everything that a student should have in English, particularly command of oral English. That students should leave our classrooms as fluent, confident, and maybe eloquent speakers. That they should have a command of the spoken word, which was not before required in the syllabus. What I also think is good about this is there were some things that we did with our juniors that we knew were very, very important. Like me, I'm sure you had the debates, you know, the interclass debates. The stand up and make a little presentation on something as part of the Christmas exam, and I'm sitting at the back of the room. And we would do that particularly in transition year. Now, when we did a lot of the things that we did, you know the way you used to get that question, is it on the course? Is it on the course? Well, there's a lot more on the course now that we considered before was the bells and whistles, the lovely things that we did that were not captured in the terminal written examination, which was really quite a narrow focus, and sometimes you feel didn't embrace all the best of things you did. The more you look at the learning outcomes, and we look at them tonight, the more you see they're very important. They're a teacher's friend in a way. We've looked at a lot of definitions of learning outcomes. I think this is the one that sits most comfortably with the way we worked in Fire and Ice. It's actually a very succinct summing up of what we do, especially relevant in an assessment for learning situation. So Dee will show you how in the planning we honoured that commitment, that we would fulfil the learning outcomes. And we took the English learning outcomes and thought about the beginning, when we state what we're going to do, how do we then scaffold it? How do we lead our students toward that kind of demonstration? And how do we bring them to the end of a period of learning where they can say, I have learned this. I can do this. I understand this. So when you look at the learning outcomes, then you say, well, what's new? I'm looking at them and saying, look at this one, for example. The bread and butter stuff of an English classroom. Everything that was examined before. Reading, 6. Now there are 13 oral, 13 reading, 13 written. Reading 6 says, read their text for understanding and appreciation of character, setting, story, action. Explore how and why characters develop. Recognize the importance of setting and plot structure. Lovely stuff. We've always been doing it. Happily, we will continue to do that. And we'll do it with a lovely new range of texts. As you know from our recent embracing of literacy, there are 4 literacy skills. And the first one is listening. Listening, speaking, reading, writing. We're really going back to a point where we're saying, listening attentively is a skill. Can we teach our students to listen very attentively? In Fire and Ice, we were very, very aware of that. There are lots of audio texts. and we have made sure that there are good voices and that they listen to really good communicators, and that they listen attentively, that they take notes, that they learn the skill of listening. And this is articulated here in Oral 8. Listen actively, to interpret meaning, to compare. Now there's a new word at junior level. And the more we looked at the learning outcomes, the more we said, I'm beginning to see the natural progression that leads to the really good, confident 5th and 6th year student who has learned some of those basic skills in junior that I need them to have when it comes to senior level. Respond to drama, poetry, media broadcasts. Lots and lots of media broadcasts. It was wonderful to look for the best of media broadcasts because, as you know, some of the most talented people on the planet are working in media. Digital comes up quite a bit because, of course, we want our students to leave our classrooms media literate, digital literate. Noting key ideas. We've got lots and lots of worksheets where we make sure that as a student listens, I've always said, when you're listening, you've pen and paper. You never simply listen. You listen and you note. You bring your whole mind to the piece that you're listening to, and then you give me something back. You say, what did I get from that? What did I note in that? Noting not only ideas, so what was it about, but also style. Now look at these new words. And when you look at the exam papers, and we're going to look at them later on, we see style, tone, and content. So you begin to get a flavour of what's new. And you really have to look at those learning outcomes very attentively to see that. Look at writing 8. Now where have we seen that before? The effectiveness of key moments. And we need that because we're asked to do 2 novels. Now how can we do them if we read them with the attention that we used to read To Kill a Mockingbird? It can't be done. I was listening to a teacher, actually it was Tomas' school recently, and she said, I was doing Noughts and Crosses, Mallory Blackman. It's too long to read every bit. She set up a book club. So she was reading key moments in class, and in groups then, they and their book clubs were reading the bits in between. Have to find ways of looking at those key moments and doing a really good study, as we do now, say, for the comparative, and really teaching style and content from the best moments. And that's a lovely kind of teaching. Commenting on characters, key scenes, favourite images from a film. So film, yes, it is official, it's there. We were always showing film at junior level. In no way was it reflected in what they wrote at the end. It will be now. A chapter, a media or a web-based event. So you can see, as you look closely at them, we get into a new kind of language for junior cycle. It's very, very useful to think of the learning outcomes in batches. So to think of them this way, this is how, with Fire and Ice, we try to organise them. 22 for first year. There are 22 learning outcomes, a certain number of oral, certain number of reading, certain number of writing, that particularly mark a continuation of what the student was doing in 6th class. They were doing oral proficiency in 6th class. Sometimes they let that go. They were doing reading for pleasure. So there are those 22, and if you just concentrate on those, and that's what you'll find in book 1. The concentration is on the 22, and they're distributed through the book. If you think then in 2nd year, the students are being prepared for the oral communication, and there is a set of 8 learning outcomes that prepare them for the oral communication. Likewise, in 2nd year, the student begins the collection of texts about which Tomas will speak. There are 11 learning outcomes for the collection of texts. So if you think of those 8 and those 11 in 2nd year, and then when it comes to 3rd year, the final assessment, and this is very interesting because we had to look very closely at them. The final assessment has asterisked learning outcomes. The exam setter will be looking at 23 learning outcomes marked with an asterisk in the set of 39. When you look at those 23, we took them individually and we printed in red the ones that overlap with 1st year. And in fact, there are 12 that overlap with the ones you did in 1st year. So I think it becomes far more manageable when you start to think of them in that way. And that's how we've handled them in the book. We've put them into batches, arranged them in that way, and arranged text in themes around them. So those are the 22 for first year. You'll find that diagram in the teacher's resource book, but more importantly, you'll find those learning outcomes spread through the book.